Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who is listening to this at this very moment. Thank you for taking time out of your day, wherever you may be like doing things and everything, to tune into a very special programming. And for those who are wondering who I am, my name is Clifton Pope. I am pharmacy technician going on 4.5 years, and at the same time I am also the founder and CEO of my own personal health and wellness brand called Health Fitness Wealth Business. And overall within that has come the vision of just trying to find personally myself as far as healing myself from within through natural living and everything, and just lighting myself up from within myself, and just overall just launching my overall purpose and just going through like my own spiritual enlightenment, which is why I kind of wanted to recruit a special someone who knows a little bit about this spirituality battle and how you could blend it in with the overall entrepreneurship to make you basically a better entrepreneur, number one, to where you can most importantly know yourself and know your worth, but at the same time you can overall find your calling, what you're meant to do in this world, which is a very special, powerful thing. And with this webinar, you can call it, I like to call this, along with my fellow collaborator, Miss Tilde Guajardo, how to find your divinity from within. Because it's like, when I originally reached out to Tilde, and she can attest to this as well, it was just kind of like a brainstorming session, just kind of finding ways to where we could bring what we individually do on our own and kind of bring it into one, to where we can encourage everybody, hey, this is how you can transform, most importantly, what we like to say, the mind, body, and the spirit. Because this health and wellness journey, it's a generational type of thing, because if your health isn't overall right, then you're not going to be able to get the bag, as they say, to where you can basically achieve your own version of financial freedom to begin with. So that's why health is wealth, as they say. And that's something that me and the lovely Miss Tilde Guajardo are kind of presenting to you today. It's with this webinar, just kind of giving you a guide of our own personal experiences, our own battles, and how we came up with our philosophies, just to overall help you transform yourself for the better good, especially in this world and especially in this society that we live in, because there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're going to try to give you basically the blueprint on how you can overcome whatever uncertainty you're facing within your mind, within your body, and within your spirit. And with that being said, I want to give the opportunity for everyone to get to know Miss Tilde Guajardo a little bit better. Tilde, I just want to say thank you for just making this even possible to begin with, and overall, let the people know, of course, what you overall do, and of course, what your journey is and how you've gotten here as well.
Yeah, well, I thank you, first of all, for the invite, Clifton. I really appreciate the collaboration and you reaching out to me to just kind of throw around ideas and how we ended up here. I'm really excited about it because, most of my work, I've had my own business now for the past over 10 years, and it's been like trudging through mud, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
I think when, just to give people a little bit of background about me, I spent 20 years in a very successful career, making a cushy six-figure income. Decided to jump out of that and start my own business, make my side hustle my main hustle, as I like to say.
Right.
Back in 2014, and started, doing and teaching women's empowerment classes. I created a company called Womanars, and started telling stories, inspirational stories of how women had created their success.
Mm-hmm.
And what I started to see a pattern with all these women that I was interviewing. I interviewed over 100 women on video and met with hundreds of others, for coffee or lunch and
Yeah.
things like that. And what I noticed is that over 99%, if not 100% of them, attributed their success to their faith.
Yep.
And it didn't matter if it was Christian faith, Muslim, it ran the gamut of all sorts of faith, but the commonality was that they believed in something bigger than themselves, which
Right,
drove them
exactly.
to find themselves and to find their true purpose and why they were here. So, because they all wanted to make an impact, they all wanted to leave a legacy. And so, from that was born the Divine Quotient program and some other things that happened along the way. And people can watch my TEDx talk to find out more about that. But yeah, so for me, the passion and what drives me, my passion and what drives me is helping people to reconnect and to reignite that light within themselves, that spirit
Yep.
within themselves, so they can then see their purpose very clearly, a lot more clearly than they are now.
Yep. And I truly agree with that, because it's like the powers that be, it has like an interesting way of making the unthinkable possible when you least expect it. And that's kind of like the whole journey to kind of like how what I was going through, because overall what led to me personally starting health, fitness, wealth business was just something just clicked within myself within like I would say 2000, between 2017 and 2018. I just got tired of just doing the same old thing, hanging out with the same old crowd, always partying all the time. So I felt like now is the time to just cleanse myself from all the toxic that I guess I was ingesting within my own mind, body, and spirit at the time that I wasn't aware of, but I was just living in the moment of that. So overall, I felt like when I started this whole process of just cleansing myself and just doing research on different individuals and basically just starting to read more and just do more journal entries, get more in tune with just praying and meditating a little bit more and just developing my own ultimate success formula that I personally call it for myself. That's where, and that for everyone who's watching, it's just you gotta have like your own. Everyone goes through their own obstacles, of course, but within that, you create your own ultimate success formula without you even realizing it. And sometimes people don't even realize it, because once they do it, sometimes they fall back in that same pattern of just having to pick themselves back up and get themselves back going. And then they forget how they got to where they originally were before they failed originally. And it's like, it's just a matter of just maintaining like that model of consistency within that journey and just making it overall work from within itself. And that's kind of what I want everyone to get within this webinar, is just overall how to find yourself as far as just lighting up your overall purpose and overall what finds you from within and everything. Because overall, I think that's what's missing in this world right now, and that's what's missing within this generation. And I feel like within my own journey, there came, the opportunity to just build my own vision with basically like my website with health, fitness, wealth, business, and overall just putting together, of course. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry for the difficulties, everybody. I didn't even realize that Tilde disappeared for a second because I was going on and on. I do apologize about that. Welcome back as well, Tilde. I didn't even
Thank
realize
you.
you
I'm glad I
disappeared.
didn't interrupt you, so keep going.
No, of course, of course. But overall, kind of like what you were alluding to earlier, Tilde, something about just like whenever I wanted to get my own brand out there, I figured like I would start a podcast and then, of course, get my own points across, and then got to the point where that got tiring. And then I figured I want to reach out to other people to see how I can learn from them, and at the same time see if they can relate to the certain things that I believe in and stuff. And if not, that's okay, because I also look at it as an opportunity to just seek to understand, then to be understood. And I feel like that's one of the main messages I want to get across in this presentation today. If you really want to grow and expand within your own mind, body, and spirit, you have to sometimes seek to understand others and sometimes study those who've already are doing what you are trying to set out to be. Like, for instance, if you're trying to be an author, for example, try to reach out to other authors and study what they've done and study their own ultimate success formula to where it got them to where they wanted to be. Or say if you're trying to do just any profession really in general, just study those who are successful. And then at the same time, once you do that, then you create your own formula to be understood from within. And you'd be surprised how many doors of opportunities that can open up. And that's kind of like one of the key purposes of just going back to just what lights you up from inside and finding your purpose. And overall, it just starts with what you love. You got to find passion, and you got to find something that you love and that just gives you that spark of energy to where it's like the adrenaline feels great and you feel excited and you don't feel like you're not working at all. You just feel like you're just enjoying what it is that lights you up from inside, for instance, what you love. And at the same time, it's overall just goes back to the whole spirituality battle as far as just going within that faithful journey and just designing that plan. It just takes a plan to just achieve your purpose and just empowering yourself to where you spark your own creativity to where you walk away from being a follower. You become more of a leader. And that's kind of the message that Tilde and I also want to get across to you as well, because at the end of the day, the current state of the world that we live in, it's a little bit of a pandemic, but it's also another crisis that's going on that a lot of people aren't talking about that's very overlooked. We're lacking leadership. It's a leadership crisis. And I feel like if you listen to overall the motto of IKIGAI, which is IKA, which I talk about in my personal self-published book I have here, What's Wealth Without Work. If you get it on Amazon, it's chapter 2, and it talks about basically what lights you up from inside and finding your overall purpose. And that's kind of like the Japanese term and philosophy in which helps you find yourself from within. And it's kind of like that, and what Tilde talks about within the divine quotient, it's like it leads to just like a spirituality journey. And I feel like the spirituality aspect is a major key to overall just helping out with all entrepreneurs, because it'll give them more of a sense of confidence and a sense of a purpose to where they can design that brand that they want, or they can establish that business that they want, to where they can get an overall message across to the overall consumers who are looking to consume the products and services that they have to offer. But at the same time, a relationship and a bridge can be built to where the overall message can be received on the overall meaning behind what they're doing within their brand and within their business. How do you feel about that, Tilde? And overall, how do you feel the divine quote and the model of IKA that I just explained that we've talked about previously before? How do you feel like both of those things have similarities?
I think they are similar. There are some differences, though, as well, in that, the reason that I'm here in collaboration with you is because, you believe in the spiritual aspect, right? The importance of that.
Yes, I do.
I think the difference is that I don't separate spirituality from entrepreneurship. I believe that, we are spiritual beings living a human experience. And so when we are not in alignment with our higher self, then that's when we tend to get a little confused and unclear about what our purpose is, and we start to question, like, who am I? Why am I here? So you kind of go through this sort of identity crisis, if you will, because nothing seems to feel right when you start doing it, right? Which is okay, because we've got to go through, we've got to know what we don't want sometimes before we know what we do want. But as spiritual beings having a human experience, And I think for a lot of people that aren't, into the faith thing or religious thing, think of yourself as energy, okay? Just being connected to a bigger energy than yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're connected to that energy that you're holding, your beliefs are that energy. So whatever you believe to be true is what the world that you're creating. And so when we're not in alignment, which what I call spirit, mind, body alignment,
Mm-hmm.
because our spirit is who we really are, our higher self, our
Exactly.
intuition, if you will.
Exactly.
And when we're not listening to that intuition, or when our intuition and our spirit is not managing our mind, because mind mastery is really recognizing that higher voice, your
Yep.
higher calling, that higher purpose. And so when your higher self, your spirit, is then mastering your mind, it can direct what your body does, right? It can
Yep.
it can control your habits, your thoughts, the way you're showing up, the way that you're being around people. And so for me, it's a direct reflection. Your life is a direct reflection of what you believe to be true, not only about yourself, but about this higher power, yourself, and then others as well. And I can only use myself as an example with that because, when I believed that God was an angry God, or that, he was, that I was full of shame or fear or anger and all these things, I thought God was angry at me. But when I changed my perception of the divine and how much I was loved and accepted, and that I was just love, pure love, then that's what actually transformed my mind, right? And motivated me to change my mind. Started to read books on love, started to read books on how to manage my anger, because I was a mess when it came to
Yeah.
anger in my 20s, right? In my 20s and 30s. And so I started the transformation process. And when I changed my perception about who God is, it changed my perception about myself. And then it allowed me to change my perception and experiences to start pushing through those fears or limiting beliefs that I'd had in the past and change my reality. Joe
Mm-hmm.
Dispenza says, if you want to change your personal reality, you have to change your personality. And that is so true.
Mm.
It is
It
so
is.
true,
It
so
goes back to a
powerful.
sense of direction. It really
Yeah,
does.
absolutely. And if you don't have a sense of direction, or if you're feeling a little confused, my question is, when's the last time you actually took care of your spirit? Or even thought about how to nurture your spirit?
It's kind of like what I talk about in my book, What's Wealth Without Work. It's like getting in your car and just driving around without an ideal destination. It's like, yes, the destination is on our mind and we have an idea of where we want to go within our journey, but at the same time, we have to get in the car and start the engine and get things going in order to do that. Where we get so ahead of ourselves and think of the destination, we don't realize, hey, we still got to go on a journey. And it's just like, we all have a process on how to get there, on how we could figure it out. Like, for instance, whether it's like the directions on how to get there or the estimated time of arrival. It's just putting that plan in place and getting to that destination and just cutting back on whatever setbacks can hold you back from that. And that's kind of the whole Japanese philosophy that they talk about within IKIGAI. And it's like, there's like 5 steps that they talk about that, of course, is like the key to all of this. It's like the first one, it's kind of like you have to start small. And it's like starting small is simple. It's like, don't take on more than what you can handle. You got to start with the little things as far as building up that spirit, that mind, and that body connection. Just for instance, start off with just a simple routine of just getting up and just simply saying a simple prayer and just practicing gratitude and just being thankful for what you have versus what you don't have. And you'd be surprised on the things that you don't have. Those things might come in due time if you just practice simple acts of gratitude and everything. And that's a key in starting small and for instance, just building up your own brand and business. If you do that, you will eventually find your own success. And that's kind of like the example that I myself can share with the Health, Fitness, Wealth Business brand, and what Tilde can share with the overall success of Womanars and everything. And it's an incredible experience every single time. And it's like, it can be challenging, but it can be doable overall at the same time. And overall, the second philosophy that I would like to share with the audience as far as starting small and lining those things up, attacking it one by one and just knocking yourself off, knocking those things out quickly, it'll achieve the overall purpose of just accepting yourself, which is the second step in the model of Ikigai, I-K-I-G-A-I. And overall, you gotta start by knowing yourself and accepting yourself as far as just within the overall journey of just finding your purpose of what lights you up from inside. Because accepting yourself, it starts with just knowing yourself and knowing and building your own name, because the only thing you have is basically your name and your word. And that's basically what most entrepreneurs carry as far as just building their own startup businesses and everything. They start with their name and their word as far as their overall message and what they're overall trying to share and bring as far as a different out-of-body experience to the world. And that's what some of the greatest business CEOs of all time have done as far as to get to this destination. I mean, look at what, for instance, the late Steve Jobs did with Apple, for example. People seem to forget that it started literally in a garage with like maybe $500 to $1,000 at the time. And he had to find his own purpose on what he wanted to bring to the world with the Apple products. And he felt that a different level of technology can change the world. Fast forward to where we are now. Hey, the whole world literally is revolving around Apple products. I mean, I have me an iPhone right now. I'm guilty of being a part of it. But overall, it just goes back to just accepting yourself and knowing your worth. I mean, at that time when Steve Jobs was in his garage building all that, I'm pretty sure he was in the process of knowing himself and knowing his worth and what he wanted to bring to the world. And look at what he did before he passed away and stuff. That's a great example that we could all follow, and just accepting ourselves and just bringing what our worth is to the world and just making your own story be told and flow more smoothly. And that is how you can connect with others and the world. And that's the third step of the model of Ikigai that I want to share with everybody, because it starts with just overall, like what I mentioned earlier, just seek to understand and to be understood, listening before you speak. When you do that, you could be able to connect with others and build bridges that you never thought you could build, and open up doors of opportunities that you would never thought would be possible to open. And it just goes back to just being careful and being respectful of others, because you never know any time when you come across someone and when you meet somebody what they can bring to the table for you, which is why you should always, most importantly, be nice, and most importantly, be humble every time you meet people, because you never know what the opportunities that they could bring. I mean, look at how me and Tilde met. I'm going to tell a quick story of basically how we met for those who are wondering. We basically met at a networking event where Tilde was a speaker for a great friend of both of ours named Deborah Pope, who has been a great influence on everybody's life. She has her own book, which I actually have right here. her book Networking for Novices, who those who are watching the video right now, you need to go get that because it's a great opportunity on how you can also expand your businesses and everything. But we met at that event, and we never knew that the opportunity would come with where we can cross paths and everything. Fast forward a couple of months later, look at where we are now. We're connecting with each other with the opportunity to where we could connect with the world. So that's a great example of following that model within itself that we want to pass on the message to where you can do the same. Whenever you're in the process of making that transition into an entrepreneur, or whether you're trying to build up your own brand or build up your own business, never be afraid to connect with others, never be afraid to network with others, and never be afraid to just step out into those opportunities, into those networking events to where you can share what you bring to the table, to where you can pass it on to the next person, and the next thing you know, you're building your own tribe and your own following within that. Because that's how you can basically have that ultimate success that you can achieve within your brand, within your business, within your organization, within your overall corporation. It's the same little formula that can be followed, but it's just overall forgotten. How do you feel on that? And if you feel like you want to expand on that, Tilda?
On the formula for
Yeah. Just going back to just overall, just finding, like, for instance, it all ties into basically what you're good at and what you can be paid for, and at the same time what the world needs. How do you feel you can expand on those three layers right there?
I think for sure what I've seen, because since I've jumped out on my own, my main work has been focused on female entrepreneurs, and not only working with them here in the US, but abroad as well. And the commonality that I see with all of them is, and the entrepreneurs that I see doing the best are always the ones that are authentic. And what do I mean by that? Well, they will, they know their strengths, they know their values, they're aligned with their values, and they don't sway from that. Now they will of course seek advice and mentorship, but in the end they know themselves well enough to where, let's say somebody's teaching the 7 steps to success, okay, because
Right.
there's 5 steps, 3 steps, I mean, we've all heard it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for them, 7 steps are great, but only 5 really resonate with them and what they want to do. And so they have the
Mm-hmm.
confidence and the intuition, they're following their intuition to say, okay, these 5 work for me, but these other 2, not so much. So they're willing to step outside of that box, right? That says you have to do business this way in order to succeed, which is contrary to what we're told, but those have been the most successful. You mentioned Steve Jobs. He was outside
Yes.
the box. Totally
Exactly.
outside. Richard Branson, outside the box. Herb Kelleher for me, which was a huge role model because I was with Southwest Airlines for 20 years. Amazing leader, outside the box, right? And so for businesses moving forward into what I call the new world now, because I think
Yeah.
we're moving into a more conscious world.
Yes, we are.
We're for new systems, right? Because old
Yeah.
systems are broken. In
Yeah.
order to move from the old world into the new world, whether it's business, politics, education, whatever the case is, we
Mm-hmm.
have to think outside the box. And this
Yes,
is
we do.
especially true for entrepreneurs because I don't think that the old way of doing business is going to work in a more conscious world where consumers are also a lot more conscious. I'll use myself as an example, buying more local, more organic, more trying to support, small businesses, being more conscious about, okay, if I am
Yeah.
purchasing from a major corporation, how do they treat their employees?
Yeah.
What's their record on the environment? Things like that, to where it's
Mm-hmm.
not just about what's best for me,
Yeah.
but it's conscious, right? It's thinking outside the box, thinking about the ramifications of how and where I'm spending my money now. And I think the businesses that will be the most successful are the businesses that are cognizant of that.
Right.
Because as we're building new companies, we build them because people are going to buy from us, right? I mean, that's what makes us a successful company. But you have to know your customers, and consumerism,
Exactly.
I believe, is just moving in a totally different direction. So authenticity, going back to that, being authentic, knowing your values, why am I in business? And again, using myself as an example, I started off my company wanting to make an impact in the lives of women, to show them how powerful they really are, not only as individuals, but how powerful we are collectively. And so I started to listen to too many gurus, too many experts, who are
Yeah.
successful. And it was great, to learn from them. But in so doing, I created a box for myself, and I tried to fit in their box instead of being aligned with myself, and that created a lot of resistance in being successful in my company, because it just never felt right to try and be successful the way these other people were trying to convince me to be successful. It's not my personality. It's not who I am to do business the way that they were wanting me to do business. So I struggled for a long time, and it wasn't until about 4 years ago where I finally decided to step out and really just take a break, because I had been fighting. I'd been told you can't be spiritual or be faith-based, teaching and be successful. Like, you have to be a nonprofit, you have to be a preacher, teacher, whatever the case may be, but you're not going to succeed in that type of business. And I believed them for the longest time, until about 4 years ago, when I really stepped out in faith. I stepped out in faith and stepped into my true calling, and I started to put myself out there, as a spirituality and positive psychology mentor and coach. And the doors started to open. Now, has it been easy? No, it hasn't. But I can tell you,
Nope.
I am much more happy. I am much more in alignment. I am much more fulfilled. My life has meaning because I am doing and fulfilling my calling and my purpose. And, that's all that really matters. Abundance for me has been redefined, in that it's not about being materialistic or monetary. For me, it's always been about how many people can I touch and inspire with my own story and with the experiences that I've learned. And so that's the currency that I live by, currency of love, peace, joy. And I think for a lot of us, we're moving in that direction.
I love how you just mentioned joy, because I feel like it's just a matter of just staying present within the moment, of finding the joy in the little things in life, because it's finding the joy in little things in life that will make you overall healthy, to where your mind and your spirit and your body can overall evolve as you, of course, train the mind, and of course the body will follow and everything. And at the same time, it'll lead to the overall generational health building within your own DNA, to where it can pass on to more generations, to where wealth can be developed in overall time, because that's where the whole health is, his wealth factor can overall blend in and everything. And I feel like just being in the present moment of what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish can make a big difference. And it's just being aware of those, like you alluded to, Tilda, just the conscious decisions that you make as far as where to spend your money. I have a good example of that myself, because I was catching up with a friend. His name is Lupe Ramos. He was basically like, he wanted to buy, of course, a couple of my shirts and get a copy of my book and everything, because, of course, he wanted to support local. And I feel like supporting local is the most important thing I feel like anyone across the world can do. Because if you really want to change the world, you got to start with changing your home and your neighborhood first. Why worry about what's in someone else's backyard when you don't even have your own backyard and your own yard in order? So overall, I feel like if you focus on just getting your own home and your own yard in order and focusing on the opportunity to just go explore your own community and just supporting all these local businesses and all these entrepreneurs and building them up. And then when you become the process of becoming your own entrepreneur and your own brand and your own business, and they'll be like, okay, you supported us whenever we were on the come up, and then certain people will return the favor, because what goes around comes around at the end of the day, as far as just within the journey of finding your own purpose and just knowing yourself and knowing your worth. And it's like, it all alludes to one simple thing, just self-knowledge. And it's just the spirituality battle that you go through within that. I told myself that, hey, I want to show people that it's possible to heal themselves from within and explore more of a natural living process and everything, and not having to rely on, obviously, the pharmaceutical companies and all that good stuff, to where they can just take it back to the basics of just eating right, exercising, and getting a whole lot of sleep, and at the same time just helping them lose weight, gain muscle, and most importantly have more energy. And overall, I feel like that's some of the major keys in overall just finding your overall purpose and lighting something up from within to where you can overall better yourself and overall make this whole situation possible. And with that, along with just living in the moment and everything, I feel like that's a major key as far as it's just finding yourself to where you can do what it is you love, spread whatever message it is that you're trying to spread to the world, and at the same time, finding the overall passion of what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and overall what the world needs. Because everybody has something different that they could bring to the table that can be very unique to the world. Don't let anybody, and I mean anybody, stop you from overall chasing the vision that you feel like can change the world. Because the world needs a whole lot of change every single day, and there's always something that the world needs that hasn't been done before, and it's kind of just goes back to the transition of what Tilde was talking about, going from the old into the new, because the world is constantly changing every single day, and there's always another opportunity to where that up and coming entrepreneur can bring something by that the world needs, then they can get paid for it, and at the same time it symbolizes what they're good at, and at the overall same time they're getting an overall message across based on what they're good at. And it just goes back to the simple fact of doing what it is that you love. And it just starts with just finding what it is that you love, and in the process, knowing yourself. And that's been my formula of what's been my overall entrepreneurship journey. And it's still in the process of ongoing and stuff. Like, I'm constantly learning and finding ways on being the best that I can be, being all that I can be, and being the best version of me, of just going through the overall journey myself, and coming across certain people who I've met and had wonderful meetings and conversations with based on what I've done within my overall podcast interviews. Most people who are watching this webinar don't even realize that me and Tilde have done a podcast episode which allowed us the opportunity to get to know each other a little bit, to where we were able to put together this opportunity for this collaborative effort of just bringing both of our special talents into one and just supporting the idea of unity in the community. Because it's like, at the end of the day, it comes down to just respect for each other's crafts. If we respect each other's crafts and unify, we can overall build something very powerful and stop multiple enemies from killing off the overall message of just blending the spirituality and the entrepreneurship into one. And that is going to change the world more than any political figure will ever be able to change the world. That's how I truly feel about that. And Tilde, you're more than welcome to kind of just elaborate on what I said. And how would you feel based on what you think is the overall future and the overall direction of this going forward?
The overall direction of what, Clifton?
just the overall just spirituality and entrepreneurship battle and blending it in as one, as helping the future entrepreneurs who want to build their own brand that helps them model what it is that they desire to help bring what the world needs and based on what they love and what they're good at and what they can get paid
Right.
for.
So what I have noticed, okay, there's three different paths that people will normally take, and
Right.
entrepreneurs, and this can be entrepreneurs or just people in general, but you're either looking to others to validate you, to show you the way. So you're trying to please other people, maybe living to please other people. You're building something because you want your mom and dad to be proud of you. You want your spouse, to finally notice your talents and your gifts, to validate you in some way. Or you're egocentric and you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for materialistic reasons, for power reasons, for greed. You're doing it to prove yourself. And then the third thing and final thing is you're doing it because you're in alignment with your higher power. And the
Yeah.
difference between all those things is that the first two, when you're doing it to please others or to only simply please your ego and yourself or to prove yourself, is that those two things come to an end. You end up feeling very empty, and like you end up thinking like there's got to be more, right? Why am I here? It causes that sort of identity crisis that we talked about a little bit at the beginning. And whereas if you're connected with something bigger than yourself, with your spirit, with your higher self, that is the only place that you can find true peace, an infinite amount of peace, an infinite amount of creativity that never ends, an infinite amount of love, an infinite amount of joy. And so for entrepreneurs moving forward, an infinite amount of freedom and abundance, right?
Yep.
So for entrepreneurs and people moving forward, because I really believe that we're moving into a new age, a new spiritual age, which is going to create spiritual businesses and conscious businesses.
It's the age of information.
Right. And it's like, okay, I ended my TED Talk with this question. If your life is a reflection of all the choices of what you believe to be true, right? If your life is a reflection of all the choices that you've made and what you believe to be true, in what or whom are you placing your trust in? And it's either others, yourself, or the divine. And the divine is where you can find an infinite amount of resources.
Yep. I truly agree with that. And with all those resources, it can help build your own version of wealth that can be passed on to the next generation and going on and going forward. And that's overall the name of the game as far as for all entrepreneurs, all businesses, all corporations and everything. And it's
Well, and
kind
that's
of
how
like
you influence. You influence people because people trust
exactly.
you, right? Because they see results. They see the changes that you've made or the success quotations, that they see you having, and then or they just see you happier, right?
Yeah.
They see you as a totally different person, totally different energy. It's kind of like when you transform your body. People wonder, like, what the heck have you done? You look great.
They
And
see the progress that you've made
they
and they
see the
see that you've.
results, right? And so they want to know what you did so that they can then go and do it for themselves a lot of times. So that's the influence, right? When you start to make changes
Yes.
from the inside out and people start to notice it, they notice your energy is different. They notice, you know, just the difference that's happening within your own life. That allows you the opportunity then to influence people because you now building credibility and they trust you to give them the information that will help them along their journey as well. And so as you do that, from an aligned perspective in spirit, mind, body alignment, then the more people that you'll be able to influence, because the more people are going to trust you. And then from the influence, you'll be able to also go into the impact. How can I give back? Is it monetarily? Is it to the environment? Is it collaborating with other people that are like-minded and like-hearted with myself, to make more of a difference in the lives of more people? So you really start to think about others. It's not just about making money anymore. It's about making a difference. And I think those are the types of businesses that will be the most successful in the coming years and in the coming ages.
Yeah, and it's kind of alluding to what you were talking about as far as the transformation of the body. They don't see the fact that you're rolling up your sleeves and just simply putting in the work. And people want to ask what the secret ingredient is. It's simple. It's just putting in the work and not being afraid to bring something different to the table, to where you can shake things up a little bit and stir up the pot with the secret ingredient. And that's how you know you're doing something right. And that's how you know how you can become your own brand. You can become your own business and platform, and you can have all the peers look on to you as the example that you set, as far as just going back to just establishing what your overall purpose is based on what lights yourself up from within the divinity, like you alluded to, Tilde, and just the overall spirituality. And it's kind of like, that's when you know it gets to the point of like the higher levels of just connecting with the higher power and just experiencing the higher level of learning and just staying educated, and most importantly, taking in all this information. And always just using that information for the greater good, and using it as your own model that you can build off of, to where people can continue to follow you on as a leader, and basically just based on what you're doing. And that's, I feel like, is what's very necessary in moving into this new age that we're going in. Because you're absolutely right, Tilde, we're moving into a very different age of this world. And it's simply, like you alluded to, it's like the age of spirituality, it's the age of information, and it's also becoming the age of entrepreneurship. Because now is the time to where I feel like now is your opportunity and the moment to strike. Because with the way things are going in the world, things are going into almost like borderline full crisis at any moment. So if you want to take anything away from this webinar, it's just really simple. Now is your opportunity to strike. Now is the time to where you need to take a good look in the mirror and find your overall self, number one, for those who are lost, and overall just connect to the higher power. And within connecting to the higher powers, you can get access to higher levels of learning and higher levels of knowledge that will help you find yourself, find what it is that you love, find what it is that you're good at, find what you can be paid for, and you can most importantly combine those three things together, and that will bring the opportunity of finding what the world needs. And I feel like overall that will bridge the gap between spirituality and entrepreneurship into one. And I feel like that's how we can overcome this overall pandemic that we're in. That's how I feel like we can overcome this whole inflation crisis that we're in. And that's how we can overcome this education and this overall leadership crisis. And that is what the whole motto of ITCA is all about. It goes back to just finding your purpose and what lights you up from inside, because we all have a hidden skill, we all have a hidden talent, and we all have something that God put us in this world to do. I mean, look at what I'm doing, for example. I mean, I've always been really good, for instance, at writing and overall just connecting with people, and there came my podcast, there came my book, What's Wealth Without Work. It's just overall taking advantage of the hidden talent and the hidden skill that you have. And I feel like doing that and connecting with the higher powers and the higher level of knowledge and learning that you can do, you could bring something different to the table that you never thought the world would be able to experience. And at the same time, you'll have fun doing it and you'll love doing it. And that's how I feel like you could find your own divinity from within. That's just that simple for me personally.
Yeah. Awesome.
Any final words you would like to say, Tilda, as far as the overall message you want people to get out of just finding their divinity from within?
I think it's, the question is when's the last time that you thought about nurturing your spirit? And you can, whether or not you're nurturing your spirit by the amount of joy that you have in your life, the amount of love that you're emanating, the love for life, if you will. And so I would just invite people to think about that. And if you haven't nurtured your spirit in a while, get out there and do something about that. For me, it's about being in nature, going out for hikes and walks. And, that's how I connect with the divine myself, and where I get downloads and epiphanies about, what I need to do next, because I'm in my place of peace. For other people, it might be playing golf, or for somebody else, it's something totally different. Swimming also for me, gives me great peace and comfort. It's
Right.
my form of meditation. So just tap back in and learn how to do that, on your own, for yourself, so that you can gain the clarity that.
And it's just simply just taking control of your life. It's really that simple. Once you find your purpose and reason for living and taking control of your life, you could simply just accomplish all those things and just stay engaged in the process. That's the most important thing, I feel like, is the key to just finding yourself from within and finding your own divinity within your own spiritually battled from within. And that's what I feel like Tilda and I want to leave this overall presentation in this webinar. We hope that you come along with us with the journey as far as just finding out what it is that you love, what it is that you're good at, what the world most importantly needs, and at the end of the day to take care of all the expenses and everything that life brings, what you can be paid for to do. And once you do all those four things, you will be the ultimate shining light to anyone's life as far as just the overall spiritual leader. And at the same time, you can be a successful entrepreneur and you can be a successful businessman at the end of the day, or businesswoman, and just model the overall brand and the business and the overall organization and corporation you desire to overall build the strongest message that you can possibly do in order to build this leadership build this leadership model to a whole nother level, and just stay informed within this whole education that there's plenty of opportunities and doors to get to where you can help expand what it is that you're trying to do, whether you're trying to be the best author, be the best podcast host, be the best coach, be the best teacher, doctor, whatever it is, profession it is that you desire. It just starts with those simple concepts. We need more educators. We need more leaders. We need more entrepreneurs. We don't need more athletes or rappers or celebrity figures or stuff like that. We need more entrepreneurs. We need more leaders. We need more spiritual beings who are willing to help people connect to the higher power and the higher learning. We need more innovators, and we need more creators and people who are not afraid to take risks to overall explore the overall return factor. And that's what I feel like the overall message of this webinar, How to Find Your Divinity from Within, will overall do. And I feel like that's what will make everything